Most people remember Nat King Cole as the velvet voice of America. Smooth, warm, effortless, a sound that could melt even the coldest of hearts. But behind the elegance and charm, behind the tuxedos and spotlight, lived a man who carried secrets that never made it onto vinyl. And one of those secrets came from a night so unusual, so heavy, so quietly life-changing that Nat kept it locked inside himself for the rest of his days. It began in the winter of 1953. Nat had just finished a concert in Chicago. The crowd had roared. The applause lingered long after he stepped backstage. And yet, he felt nothing. Not joy, not satisfaction, just an emptiness he didn't understand. Years of touring, interviews, rehearsals, expectations, racism, pressure. It had all piled up so quietly that he didn't notice how heavy it had become until that night. When the curtain closed, he slipped out a side door to avoid the fans gathering near the main exit. He wanted silence, just for a moment, just long enough to breathe. The air outside was cold, the kind of cold that slips under your coat and settles into your bones. Nat placed his hands in his pockets and walked without direction into the dimly lit Chicago streets. He walked past diners steaming up their windows, past jazz clubs vibrating with saxophones, past young couples dancing under neon signs. He used to love these sights. Tonight they felt distant, blurry somehow. His footsteps echoed as he wandered deeper into the city, where the streets grew darker and the buildings older. That's when he heard it. A piano. Soft, slow, uncertain, like someone searching for a melody they used to know but had almost forgotten. Nat stopped. The sound drifted from an alley to his right, coming from a building that looked abandoned. Broken windows, chipped paint, a flickering sign that once read Eastwood Music Hall, though half the letters had fallen. He should have kept walking, but the piano kept calling him. Nat approached the door and pushed it open. It groaned like it hadn't been touched in years. Inside, the air smelled of dust and memories. The main hall was dark except for a small pool of light coming from a lone piano on stage. And seated at that piano was a woman. She looked no older than 30, but her shoulders were slumped in a way that spoke of exhaustion. Her fingers moved slowly, hesitantly, like she was fighting tears with every note. Nat didn't want to startle her, but the door clicked behind him, and she froze. She looked up, her eyes widened. Not in recognition, not yet, but in fear that someone had caught her trespassing. "I'm sorry," Nat said softly, raising his hands a little. "Didn't mean to interrupt." She stared for a moment, breathing fast. Then her eyes narrowed. "Wait, you're Nat King Cole." Nat offered a tired smile. "Last time I checked." She looked embarrassed and laughed a little, covering her mouth. I didn't expect anyone to come in." "I didn't expect to be here either," Nat admitted. "But your playing pulled me in." She looked down at the keys. "I used to perform here," she said quietly, "before the place shut down." Nat stepped closer, careful not to intrude. "What happened?" The woman hesitated. Then she said something he didn't expect. "Life," she whispered. "Life happened." He understood that better than she knew. Nat nodded toward the bench. "May I?" She scooted aside, and Nat sat beside her. His fingers hovered over the keys, testing them gently. They were old, sticky, out of tune. He pressed a single note. It wavered, trembling through the empty hall. The woman waited. Nat took a breath. Then he played. Not a song from his albums. Not something polished or elegant. Something raw, something broken, something honest. A melody he hadn't played in years, a melody he only played when he needed to remember who he was beneath the spotlight. The woman closed her eyes as he played. She leaned slightly toward the music, her breathing syncing with the rhythm. And when Nat stopped, she whispered, "That was beautiful." "That wasn't beautiful," Nat corrected softly. That was me trying to keep myself together. She studied him, really studied him. You look tired, she said. Not physically. Here. She placed a hand over her heart. Nat swallowed. He didn't know why, but her words cracked something open inside him. What's your name? He asked. Clara, she said. I used to tour with small jazz bands, before everything fell apart. What happened? He asked. She hesitated. Then, with a trembling breath, she confessed, My husband passed a year ago. Car accident. I stopped playing. I stopped everything. Nat felt the words hit him like a slow punch to the chest. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Clara looked at him. What about you? She asked. What brought you here? Nat looked around the dusty hall. I lost myself, he whispered. Somewhere between the applause. Clara nodded. She understood. They sat in silence for a long moment. Then Clara said something unexpected. Would you play with me? Nat exhaled, a small laugh escaping him. It's been a long time since anyone asked me that. She smiled gently. Then maybe it's time. She began playing first, a slow, fragile melody. And Nat joined, not overpowering her, but supporting her. Their notes intertwined like two people who had known each other far longer than a single conversation. Minutes passed, maybe an hour, and in that fading, forgotten music hall, two broken souls held each other up without ever touching. When the final note faded, Clara looked at him with grateful eyes. Thank you, she whispered. I didn't know I could still play like that. Nat shook his head. No, he said. Thank you. You reminded me why I play at all. They sat on the bench together, breathing in the silence. Then Clara said softly, Promise me something. Nat raised an eyebrow. What? Don't disappear from yourself, she whispered. You'd be surprised how many people do. Nat felt those words all the way down to his bones. I won't, he said. But the truth was, he already had, until now. He stood slowly. Clara stood too. They looked at each other, not as strangers, not as fans, not as performer and listener, but as two people who had met at exactly the moment they needed each other. Nat reached into his coat, pulled out a pen and a small torn paper. Write to me, he said, if you ever need anything, anything at all. Clara's eyes glistened. I don't want money, she whispered. Nat shook his head. Wasn't offering that. Then, softly, I was offering someone to remember you. Clara covered her mouth, fighting tears. They shared one last lingering look. Then Nat stepped back, tipped his hat, and walked toward the exit. Just before he left, Clara called out, Nat! He turned. Tonight saved me, she said. Nat smiled. Not the stage smile, not the public smile, but a real one. Me too. And with that, he disappeared into the cold Chicago night. He never saw Clara again. But for the rest of his life, every time he touched a piano, every time he heard a fragile melody searching for its voice, he remembered the night an abandoned music hall reminded him who he truly was.